You're like, listen, I like cats as much as the next guy. However,
Let me tell you about a real cool cat. Jesus Christ. Hey friends, it's your buddy Basil here with the Joyspiracy Theory. This is the first podcast, the first episode for the Joyspiracy Theory, and I've been doing a couple YouTube videos. I got a few videos up there, and I will continue to post those. But I thought, you know what? I know podcasting. I've done it. I've been doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. So here we are. And so I'm really, really excited actually to share this conversation I had with Natalina. That is Natalina from Extraordinary Intelligence. A good friend of mine, a good friend of Canary Cry Radio, and now a good friend of the Joyspiracy Theory. So you notice that the Joyspiracy Theory podcast is a little bit more laid back than some other podcasts out there. I do have an awesome theme song that a good friend and partner of mine made. You may know him, Gons from Canary Cry Radio and Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. Go check out his YouTube channel. There you go, Gons. Thanks for the music. Anyways, you guys will notice that the conversation is very easygoing. I don't do a lot of editing. I just thought it would be fun to have conversations with people like Natalina and fringe Christian peeps, kind of in a more relaxed way. And, we talk about joy, we talk about cats, we talk about sadness, we talk about emotional health, and Jesus, of course. So, anyways, let's do it. Enjoy. Record on this sucker.
okay.
And now we're just going. So we're just gonna go, and then I'll figure it out later.
Okay.
Okay. Natalina, how are you?
I'm great, Basil. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Um, well, for those who may have thought that didn't sound like I was excited, I've just been having to deal with this whole software thing for doing my own podcasts. Because usually I got Gons doing it for me. And you do your own podcasts, so
Yeah.
you're the professional in this situation.
And I was absolutely no help at all. I think we can say that. I
Yeah,
listened and I supported you
no, you weren't.
emotionally.
In fact, you were actually kind of working against me by talking to me while I was trying to watch a tutorial video on how to set it up.
My
So,
real goal has been sabotaged this whole
right.
time.
Yeah, I know. I know. We just can't handle one more podcast. There are too many already. But anyways, okay. Hey friends, this is Basil, obviously, and you're listening to the Joyspiracy Theory, and I have Natalina here. And Natalina, I just want to tell you that I
Yes.
consider you one of the first, I mean, one of the primary Joyspiracy theorists. Not only just like it within this thing that I'm doing, but pretty much the whole time we've known each other.
Oh.
I mean, it's just been it's been fun. There's never been a time where it's like, oh, we gotta talk to Natalina tonight. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
she's a real bummer.
Oh my gosh, dang it. So, anyways, and anybody listening to this knows you, knows your show, and they love you too. So we're just gonna all have a love fest, a fun
Yay.
time.
That's what it's all about.
Okay. So, what are you grateful for? Give me one thing,
Oh,
or five
goodness.
things.
Okay, well, I'm grateful for so much right now. I am grateful for having this wonderful blessing of being able to share the joy of the Lord with lots and lots of people. I'm
Right?
grateful for the people like you, Basil. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for this thing that seems to be happening right now, and the Joyspiracy theory, is just another example of it. I feel like there's a lot of people right now who are just getting kind of tired of the darkness of the world, and kind of having this epiphany, this realization that as Christians we're just supposed to be so opposite of that, you know? And I
Yeah.
think it's really starting to dawn on a lot of people that instead of dwelling in those dark places so much, we need to be the light. And I'm seeing it coming about more and more, and I'm really really grateful for that. Not just because I'm a typically joyful person,
Right.
but because I think it's such a beautiful witness.
Did you prepare this awesome statement just for
No,
this podcast?
I
Because
did.
this is like the best thing that you
Oh,
could do.
no,
To
it it's just how I feel, because I think the Lord has been moving me in the same direction he's been moving you.
hmm
And I think that um prayerfully, this is something that can just become a movement, because, if you spend any time in social media or any of that, online, you just see people dwelling so much in these dark places. And it makes my heart so happy to see that there is this sort of change happening. And maybe it's kind of small, but it's very noticeable and it
Right.
touches people's hearts.
Yeah.
So I'm really, if you want to know what I'm grateful, I'm so grateful for that, because you know eh, that is, I believe, what the Lord really truly calls us to, is not to spend so much time examining all of these really dark esoteric topics, but what he really calls us to do is love him and love each other.
Boom.
So
Well, thanks everybody. That's been the Joyspiracy Theory. No, I mean that's great, and you bring up a good point, and that is the grumps.
mm,
And I haven't been doing the Joyspiracy Theory for very long. I do have a few videos up online now, and a
yes.
few more getting ready. But Gons and I were actually talking about this, and for those of you who may be listening to this and you don't know who Gons is, he is my co-host on another podcast called Canary Cry Radio. So go check that out. So I was talking to Gons today, and we were talking about the Grumps because now that we both have YouTube channels, we're like in the cool YouTube fraternity.
Yep.
Um, and so we were just kind of like scoping out comments on different people's channels, like our own, and but also Gonz's and like guys like the Vigilant Christian and all those guys, um, and Josh Peck, and we were just kind of reading the differences. And somehow, so far, the Joyspiracy Theory has been able to like be slightly immune to a
Uh,
lot of the hate. Now there is a problem with numbers because I have I don't know 500, 400 or something subscribers, and like Gons has like 80,000, so that's a difference.
yeah.
But for something like the Joyspiracy, where you would think like what could anybody possibly have a problem with
Mm-hmm.
with these videos?
Yep.
I did find a couple that are not just like not the typical internet like hate vomit, but
Yeah.
just like real legit old school like grumps, like
Oh,
old school grumps. Not like your new savvy
yeah.
modern internet like hate ninja, but just like an old grumpy person,
Oh.
like the very definition of grumpy. Anyways, one of the really only negative comments I've gotten so far was um, on my video that secret societies farts
Mm.
and gratefulness, the art of gratefulness.
Yeah.
And one guy, this might have actually been on Facebook. This might not have been on YouTube, but he's just like, "What are you talking about, farts? What are you, 12? I can't do this." And literally, if anybody here has seen the video, what I'm talking about with the farts is the historical fact that Benjamin Franklin wrote a letter to the Royal Society of Science urging them to create an elixir that makes the wind passed from the body agreeable to the senses.
Which I thought was fascinating. I
It's
did not know that.
it's an awesome thing, and he it was supposed to be kind of satirical, but that's his history, man. That's a historical fact.
Yes.
I'm not making fart noises on the video, but like this guy is such like a I don't even know, just old school grump. That's the name. That's the
Yep.
name for it now. It's gonna catch on. Everybody use it.
I get a fair
OG.
amount of the old school grumps that I can't help but be amused by the number of people that feel the need to reach out to me and tell me you're too dang cheerful. you know, your happiness is obnoxious, and
Right.
I'm just, like
Oh yeah.
the
Well.
time it takes to, because I don't really have a YouTube presence so much, but I get people who take the time to email me stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I just have to laugh because, I mean,
I
what
think
can
they
you
get
do?
paid for it. I think they're paid to be old school grumps because I don't think they fully exist anymore. I think because they do it as if it were their job. They
Yeah.
put as much energy and time into it like they're getting paid hourly for it.
Yeah.
Not even hourly, just on contract.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm always very impressed by them. Doesn't mean I like them.
Yeah. I had one girl, I'll tell you this. I have, like you guys, I've interviewed Dr. Michael Heiser a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had the opportunity now. He asked me to co host a podcast with him. And I was excited about it, of course. So I promoted it on Facebook. I was like, yay, I'm doing this thing. And this person felt the need to put a comment on there that said, I am so disappointed to find out that you are collaborating with Dr. Heiser because I'm such a fan of his.
Right.
And she literally said that, like, my personality, where this is a direct quote, you're constantly cooing at people. She said, and too lighthearted, and you're damaging Dr. Heiser's
Oh,
scholarly,
yeah.
endeavors. And I had the opportunity to actually tell Dr. Heiser
Yeah.
that.
Oh my
And he
gosh.
thought it was hysterical. He said, God forbid somebody humanize me. I
Well,
mean,
right. That's exactly what it is. I think that's some of the people's biggest some people's, not some of the people's. Some people's biggest problem is even in this genre of just kind of the conspiracy and the biblical prophecy and the research, the fringe Christian thing,
yeah,
people do hold up the researchers and the authors to kind of this standard that's a little bit ridiculous, I think.
yeah.
And
I
some
just,
great people have gotten to break out of it a little bit and talked about the backlash from that. Dr. Future is a great example.
mm,
Whenever we talk to that guy, he's like, "Yeah, people like started to realize I'm a real human being." But yeah, I think that is a part of it. It sounds like that woman had such like a it's almost like a type of celebrity, and which
yeah,
you gotta, which is just kind of part of the game, I guess.
yeah,
People will start to celebritize other people. I think maybe Americans have that sort of habit. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. We make
That's
an
my
idol out of people. I
yeah.
think.
And because we've gotten that same thing, me especially, just like one of the biggest ones that I just got, I can't even count the number of emails we got, was when we had Kent Hovind on the program on
Mm,
Canary Cry Radio. And for those of you who don't know who he is, he's a guy who he was spent a long time in jail. He's a creationist kind of activist. I'll use that term. I don't think he calls himself that term. Creationist activist, and long story short, the government put him in jail for a ridiculous amount of time, like 15 years or something, for just some tax charges. And it's a
yeah,
big conspiracy deal about why he got put away for so long. Um, and he got out of prison, and we had him on the program. I was like asking him if he had any, got any prison tattoos, or
I
had to
remember.
had to join a gang. Because I don't know, I'm thinking like Shawshank or like any of those things. Hopefully not Oz, but stuff like that. And he laughed. He thought it was funny, and oh my gosh, oh my gosh, so many people like, how could you disrespect a man of God in that way? making light of his situation. I'm like, the guy just got out of prison from 15 years. I'm sure he wants to laugh a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and anyone who's really familiar with him at all. I mean, he's a guy with a good sense of humor. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
why people would be all weird about
Yeah,
it.
I mean, and that's the thing. I if I wasn't comfortable making the joke, I wouldn't have done it.
Hmm.
And I think the part that people don't see is like the hour before the interview that we spend, talking and joking around and doing all that stuff. So,
Right.
but anyways, okay, so here's a question for you.
Yes.
Your your people are annoyed by your happiness.
Yes.
Obviously, it inspires some. It's the only reason you're. It's the only reason you're here. It's
Yeah.
one of the great reasons you're here. Um, do you have like a purposeful practice, like purposeful joy practice? Or
Mm.
is it something that comes natural to you? Or is it just sort of the accumulation of habits that you've had throughout your life? That kind of thing. What do you like?
Well,
What do you think? Where do you think it comes from?
I think that I mean, there is a certain truth to there's just, that this is just me. This is my personality. I'm a little bit of a ding dong. When it's interesting, when I first started my show, I've gone back recently and listened to some of my older episodes, and I'm very serious.
Yep.
I'm very like, I want to be a reporter. I want to be like, very taken seriously. And
Right.
I think it's sometimes if you're someone who is very enthusiastic and joyful and stuff like that, people can kind of make the mistake to think that you're not very intelligent.
Right.
And I was very aware of that, you
I
know?
get the same thing. It's kind of flattering, but at the same, it's kind of a double-edged thing because I'll
Yeah.
get people commenting like, "I'm listening to some of your old episodes, and Basil, you are so articulate and smart and and
What
like
happened?
so yeah, exactly. In those episodes, that was just awesome. I never knew you were like that." I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
it's and then you start questioning like, oh my gosh, how am I coming across now?
Right.
But
Well, now I
I
just feel like an idiot, so.
I always like my thing. I always say it's like my big disclaimer is I'm sorry, I'm a little bit of a ding dong, but I'm a fairly intelligent girl
Right.
because like um the interesting thing is I've had people say, is this a persona? Is this something that you're, consciously trying to come across this way? And the interesting part of that is that before, when I was super duper serious, I can be humble enough to say that that was the persona. I
Right.
was trying to sound like something.
Yeah.
And what this is like a comfort level I've come to where sort of that has been stripped away and it's just too dang hard to try to be something you're not.
Right.
And, not everyone's going to like it, but I think this is just largely who I am. And especially since becoming a Christian, I have silly little practices like every morning when I'm getting ready, I sing This Little Light of Mine because, I think that's my trying to be intentional and trying to be aware that everybody that you encounter throughout the course of a day, you have the potential to shine a little bit of that light on them.
Right.
And so if you start out the day with that sort of mindset, I think it helps you just put a little bit more of that out there, even if you're not like hardcore witnessing. Just with your behavior, I think it makes people wonder, where's that coming from? What's that joy all about?
Right.
And so, it mostly I can just say this is just me.
Yeah.
Take
Well,
it or leave it.
yeah, and I'll say this. I feel like I'm going to be saying this a lot throughout all the podcasts I do.
Yeah.
Because we're mainly going to be talking to Christians. I almost want to make sure everybody knows to take it as a given that like Jesus is part of the whole picture.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because I can just imagine asking more guests like, "Why you so happy, bro?" And they're like, "Jesus, duh." And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Come
"Yeah, I
on.
know, but there's more to that. There's more stuff going on." Well, you talk about your singing in the morning, and
Hmm.
believe it or not, I've actually done a lot of scholarly research on the science of happiness,
Ah.
and that's one of the sort of strategies that you pay hundreds of dollars to get a somebody with a bunch of degrees to tell you to do is to sing a song in the morning when you're
Yeah.
getting ready doing stuff like that. So it kind of seems like you found habits like that to
Yeah.
and it's just on not on purpose, you're
Hmm.
just naturally drawn to those sort of things.
Well, I think there's truth, though, to this concept of intentionality.
Right,
I mean, I certainly have my grumpy days. I mean, I'm going through a lot of craziness in my life right this minute.
right,
And, I have plenty of days where I'm down, I get the blues, but I think the point is to be intentional about it, to because if you have that awareness, and I'm not trying to sound like new agey hippy dippy, I
no,
think it's a very Christian concept of just where it says to focus on the things that are lovely and
right,
beautiful and have that mindset. It truly, truly does help. It helps to kind of ground you in that joy
right.
instead of living in that dark place that we all go to.
Yeah.
We
Well,
all.
I'm glad you bring that up. A few things.
Mhm.
The the sounding kind of hippy dippy new age thing in my, considering sharing this kind of stuff with our peeps out there. That
Yeah.
was actually a big concern for me.
Hmm.
Was like, I mean, that could be a serious danger with some people listening. Like,
Yeah.
if the answer isn't Jesus to every question, then it's New Age.
Yeah. Right.
When in fact, the Bible gives us tools and tells us flat out, there are things that we need to be doing in
Yeah.
order to, stay joyful, stay happy, not be so down in the dumps.
Yeah, I would say the Bible is replete with that kind of thing. I mean, in Proverbs, where it says, pleasant words are as a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones.
There you
I mean,
go.
those are the kinds of things that,
That's just
um,
beautiful poetry right there, isn't it?
yes,
Just that alone is so
it's
beautiful.
my favorite. It kind of chokes me up a little bit because it just speaks to, you can simplify it all the way down and just say, be nice.
Right.
And it's going to not only be good for everyone around you, but it's going to be good for you. It's going to change your mindset. It's going to change your whole paradigm a little bit. And I mean, it really does work. And actually, I think it's really that simple.
Right. So you mentioned, and you can stop me whenever, but you mentioned you're going through some crazy stuff right now, and a while back on Facebook you were mentioning stuff about your dad.
Yeah.
What's going
Yeah.
on with him?
Well, it's been a long journey, a long struggle. I won't get too deep into it, but I'll say that, like, addiction is a big thing in my family.
Mm,
And my father has been struggling with not only the addiction, but also the health problems that come along with it. So you've got, like, cirrhosis of the liver, you've got brain damage, neuropathy, things like that. And so he's been very, very ill. And it's this horrible cycle where, of course, if you are someone who turns to substances to dull the pain, now you're in pain. So you continue to take that in to try to get yourself through. It's a horrible cycle. And, I don't talk about it too much, but I'm not trying to hide it either, because I think that probably more people than any one of us would ever know and love someone who's struggling with addiction, or maybe we are struggling with it ourselves. And
absolutely.
it's a dark place. I have a lot of sympathy for addicts. I have a lot of sympathy for people and a lot of compassion for people who are stuck in that place and in that cycle, because it is a revolving door of pain, and it sort of emanates outward to everyone around you. So I have been dealing with that for well, my whole life, really, but lately, because it catches up to people as they get older, and sort of the health problems that come from that lifestyle start hitting. And
Right.
so that, he's been very ill. He's been in and out of the hospital. And he's come very close to death a number of times. The Lord
Wow.
has delivered him from that. So I do believe that there is a purpose at play here, that
How
he
old is
keeps
he?
getting. He is 62,
Mm-hmm.
and so he's not that old, really. And um, he's not nearly old enough to be in the place where he is, where he, is pretty. It's hard for him to get around,
Right.
but so those are the kinds of things that definitely take me to, they can take me to that really dark, icky place,
Right.
I went through a phase, I will confess, where I was so angry at God. I was so mad because I felt like, and this is again, I don't make myself sound so great when I say things like this, but all
No,
I can
but
do is just
that's it's
be
just being
real.
authentic. Yeah, that's the way to do
um
it.
I felt like, Lord, look, I'm trying to do everything right. I'm trying to be so obedient. I'm trying to follow this calling you've put on my life. My prayer life is amazing. you know, I'm like number one Christian over here, and you're just dumping this stuff on me. I was
Right.
so mad. And it got to the point where even like praise and worship songs bugged me because they're always about like thank you for all your blessings. And I'm like, where are they? you know
Right. Yeah.
so I mean, I would just get I was at a really dark place, and I can remember it all culminated. I was in my car, and I was at home where my parents live, and I was driving around, and I was so mad at God, and I just turned the radio off, and I just started yelling. I was just yelling at God, and it kind of manifested like this. I said to God, "Dude, really?"
Mm.
And all of a sudden, I was so overcome with the giggles because of the audacity of calling God Almighty Dude.
I gotta admit, I've definitely done that before.
It's like, and but then it was just like this wave of joy came over me, and I can only explain it as God, just if we recognize him as literally our heavenly father,
Yeah.
and just being so touched that I had this moment where I was just like, dude, and I felt like he was just kind of had this sad smile on his face, like,
Yeah.
I get it, I understand why you're so upset, and that's okay. You can call me dude if that's what helps.
I've noticed in times because one of the things I'll be like, bro, seriously?
Yep.
And one time, it's actually wasn't that long ago. I was having car troubles, and I'm like, bro, seriously? And I was alone. Like I wasn't even,
Oh.
I just yelled it to myself, and I'm like, because I'm in a habit of self-reflection. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
who was I talking to right there?
Yep.
Oh, I guess that was God.
Yep.
I just called God bro.
Yeah, I know. And I think because, one of the things that has been so impactful to me in my walk is recognizing God literally as a father,
Uh-huh.
and then thinking about how a good father reacts to his child. And when you have those moments where you're just so frustrated and you kind of are disrespectful to call someone with that,
Right.
level of authority in such a, casual name, but how compassionate and loving he is to us, to just be like, that's, what, that's totally fine. you know
Yeah.
that, and it just kind of like, it humbled me in that moment because I realized, it wasn't God doing all of this stuff, so I was,
Yeah.
aiming at the wrong
That's a
target.
that's a big one for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, including myself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we neglect to thank him for the wonderful things that we have, but we sure don't miss a beat to get mad at him when things aren't going our way, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that kind of started a shift for me in that moment. It was a weirdly sweet moment. And I kind of had to get to this place where, because I'm kind of a control freak. I like to try to fix people and things. And when I realized that there are some things that are just so far beyond my control, and not only that, but like it's not my job to control them. I had this moment where I like to say it like this, like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and it was so heavy, but it was a blessing because all of that weight pushed me down to my knees.
Ooh, yeah, put
And
put that on a journal and sell it at Christian bookstores for
yeah.
sure. Nice one.
Well, but that's just what it felt like because I was down on my knees in despair, and then I realized, well, I guess I could start praying. I'm way down here,
Yeah.
and I did, and the way that it sort of manifested was just asking God to take it. I realize I have no control over this. I'm just going to surrender it and say, put it in your hands, and come what may, I'm just going to trust. in your plan, and recognize that my plans thus far have been unsuccessful, to say the least.
Right.
And I'm going to stop leaning on my own understanding. I'm just literally giving it all to you, and I'm trusting that you're going to take it. And he does. He did. And I felt so much better after that. And I've just kind of tried to live by that philosophy. I have like a 3-point plan. Like, one is surrender, and two is trust, and then three is to delight in the Lord.
Boom.
And because if you can get to that place where you've surrendered it and you truly trust him that he's gonna take it,
Yeah.
then you have nothing else but to delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And I have seen that manifesting in my life so much, because I think it pleases him when we recognize, like, our we are weak and he is strong.
Right. Right. That's awesome. I mean, I think that's a huge lesson for everybody. And it's, I find it within especially the Christian circles and the church circles specifically, that it's something that everybody knows, like
Yep.
intellectually,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
and they can quote all the same verses back to you. They can
Yep.
quote all the same stuff. They're the still same people secretly hurting
Mm.
and not being able to find the actual joy. And that's kind of a big thing for me too, is because the past few years, it's no secret, doing Canary Cry Radio and stuff. I was quite a bit different 3 years ago or so. Again, like very serious on the podcast and very
Yeah.
intense. And I kind of would describe it the way you did, which was like that was more of the like um, facade, I think.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because you're starting out a podcast, you're trying to wake the world up to all this stuff, and you gotta sound like Alex Jones or Rush
Yeah.
Limbaugh or something.
And you
Else
want to be
nobody.
taken seriously.
Right, exactly. And now I don't want to be taken. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, people just naturally don't take me seriously, but I'll jujitsu them, do
Hmm.
it right back. Anyways, where was I going with this? Oh,
Uh,
everybody kind of has the same,
yeah.
intelligence in that
Yeah.
way where they can give you the same verses, but it's different to have the actual emotional intelligence to like feel it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, and I think that a big part of it, and I keep using it's so important to just be intentional, because, like, for example, to delight yourself in the Lord, that is not just a state of mind. To delight yourself is an action. You have
Right.
to actively
You're
pursue that.
delighting yourself, not being delighted upon.
That's right. I mean,
Boom.
he's asking you to be delightful and delighted. He's not saying, just chill over there in the corner and then I'll just pour that on you. He's going to pour it on you. That's the second part. That
Right.
I will give you the desires of your heart. That's the second part. That's the result of the action of delighting yourself
Right.
in
Right.
him.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, a big part of this audience, I think, is going to be you know, the fringe people.
Yeah.
Obviously, we might have some stragglers in here. Hey,
Yeah.
Strags,
Hey, Strags.
Strags, what's up? Um, but the thing is with the fringe Christian prophecy thing. I mean, by definition, we're constantly thinking and reading and talking about and listening to stuff about the end of the world, or like
Yeah.
literally the cessation of existence, or somebody somewhere is messing with our water and our entertainment and everything, and it's just a
Mm-hmm.
disaster, and it's so big and there's nothing you can do about it. And again, the kind of emotional intelligent, or I'm sorry, the biblically intelligent thing to say is, well, it's all in God's hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all in God's hands, which it absolutely is. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I feel like that doesn't translate over to a lot of people's emotional health, as
Mm.
we can see on the comment sections in many,
Yeah.
many a YouTube vid.
Yeah, true. I mean, one of the things before I was a Christian, if people out there don't know, I haven't always been a Christian. I've really only been a devout Christian for the past 7 years or so.
Hmm.
And one of the things that used to really bug me with Christians was that they would have these pat answers like, well, it's God's will. And they would just leave it at that. And I mean, there, like you said, there's truth to that. It is God's will, and God is directing everything, and it is that way. But, I feel like there's something sort of lacking, especially if you're witnessing to people, they just don't, that
Right.
that doesn't cut the mustard, so to speak.
Right. So, let's talk about you not being a Christian for a little bit.
Sure.
Is that okay? Is that a
Yeah.
sensitive subject?
No,
Were
I
you
love to talk about it.
because I think that's interesting, and I come from kind of a weird place, and I I like to think that I'm still able to relate to everyone, but I've basically been a Christian forever,
Yeah.
and so there's some things there that I don't really get to speak to. I mean,
Sure.
what was that like?
It was dark and
So
lonely.
many drugs, rock and roll. I
Yeah.
was in a gutter. I feel like that's always the story, and I don't have a cool story. So I was
Well,
like, I was in the green room at the Rolling Stones concert, and I woke up in a pool of my own vomit, and Jesus was there with a towel.
oh yeah,
He
I've
was
had a few
he
vomit
washed me
stories,
off.
but I'll spare you.
Yeah.
Uh, it's interesting
And
because,
sorry, and that's
yes,
not to say that I've been the perfect child forever. I'll
well,
say that. I've technically on paper been a Christian my whole life, and then, it
yeah.
things happen.
Well, sure. I mean, everybody's journey to sanctification is different, right? And
Sanctify.
uh, well, for me, it's interesting because my grandfather was a pastor,
Very good.
and he was like the most important person really in shaping me as a child. And as a child, as a very young child, I had that childlike faith. I believe I experienced healings that I prayed for when I was a kid. I had all of this really strong faith. And that was instilled in me by my grandfather, who was just an old school pastor. He preached love and grace. He was wonderful. Uh, but, you know, I don't know exactly where I went astray. And some people might say, well, then you've always been a Christian. But I'll just put it this way: my behavior for the bulk of my young adulthood and into my adulthood was not Christian. In
Right.
fact, I flat out denied Christ. And
Whoa there, sister.
I know I did. I would get into the forums, and I would try to debunk Jesus. I mean, it was
Jesus debunked.
it was really that bad. And um I really kind of got into the new agey thing because I've always been into like conspiracy theories and the paranormal and stuff like that. I mean, that's
Right.
always been a really interesting thing to me. But I really kind of took it down the new age path where I was like, assume the lotus position, surround yourself with white light, all of that mumbo jumbo. And I really got into like the law of attraction. I got really into, manifesting my own reality and
Right.
everything like that. But one thing that I don't think I recognized at that time because I struggled terribly with anxiety,
Mm.
crippling panic attacks, horrible anxiety. And one thing I don't
Ooh.
think I realized at that time was that all of this stuff that I was doing, like trying to flower power myself into happiness,
Right.
um, it was making me more anxious. I
Flower
re-
power my way into happiness. I love that.
I truly was. I mean, I tried to surround myself with new age gurus, and I made friends with like people who worked with Sting and his wife. And I had like, because Extraordinary Intelligence, my website when it first started, it wasn't a Christian website. It was new agey.
Right.
And because of I would like do reviews of all of these new agey films coming out and new agey projects, and then all of these people, because I had a really strong a big audience at the time, and people loved it, and so I got to connect with all of these big names in different new age circles. And what I didn't realize at that time was it was feeding the anxiety rather than helping it. Even
Interesting.
as I was promoting like the healing benefits of meditation
Yeah.
and all of this stuff, it was like the secret that I was keeping from everyone was that it didn't work.
Why do you think it was feeding it? I mean, like, what's
Well, I do believe now, with my current worldview, that I was really just opening myself up to spiritual attack.
Mm,
And I think that, with all of the meditation and all of the really just kind of focusing on myself, which
right.
is really, that's just like straight out of the satanic playbook, really. It's like, me, poor me. And that's where I was. And it was just making me more and more and more anxious to the point where I was a wreck. I disassociated from all of my friends, all of my family. I wanted nothing to do with anybody. I was having the world's biggest pity party.
Wow, which is the opposite of what you should have been doing.
I know. I mean, truthfully, if all of this of attraction, because I was practicing it, man, I was preaching the gospel of, you know, self,
Right. Realization.
actualization.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't working to the point where I would be like sitting in the corner of a room rocking. Like you hear people saying that, but that legitimately is what I was doing. And it was
And what
actual,
was your grandfather doing at this point? Was
I
he
hid it from him.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you were a closet
I was a
new ager.
closet. Yeah, I
What were
mean,
you doing like to your like did you pretend to be Christian still to your family or to
I
him
just
at
kind of
least?
didn't talk about it. My parents, they're not staunch Christians or anything like that,
Right.
so I didn't really have to talk about it too much to them. And then when I was around grandma and grandpa, which they lived 300 miles away from me, so I didn't see them all that often. But when I was around them, I just kind of went along with it. I'd go to church with grandpa and stuff like that. And I just loved him so much and I didn't want him to be disappointed in me. And actually, I didn't become a Christian until after he passed away.
Hmm.
And I always think, like, I wish he could have seen me, but then I have to remind myself that, that I will see him again,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to the way the Lord worked through him, because after I became a Christian, which happened in the midst of the worst panic attack of my life, to where I literally thought I was going to die, and then the Lord just delivered me that scripture from Philippians that says, "Be anxious for nothing." Um, and I had that sort of epiphany of a moment where I'm like, okay, I've never heard that before. I've never read that before. I'm having a massive panic attack, and the words on my computer screen say, be anxious for nothing. And that was I had a supernatural worldview. So I
Wow.
knew that something supernatural was happening there that was
Wow.
beyond coincidence,
Oh, so you just typed it out or what?
No, what I was doing was I was researching an article about the New Age, and I was researching something I was going to write for my website,
Right.
and I was having such a bad panic attack that I was just sort of on autopilot, flipping through websites, didn't wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and then I just had like this moment of lucidity where I looked up at my computer, and that scripture was just, I don't know how I got to that. I wasn't looking for anything Christian. I wasn't searching for anything like that. It was just there.
Yeah.
It was the most supernaturally profound moment. And it says, of course, and the peace of God that passes all understanding will comfort your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. And the peace of any sort was something that I had not felt in a very long time. And so I just had this moment where I said, okay, Jesus, if you're real and you're the one talking to me right now through my computer,
Did you said this? Did you say it
kind
out
of,
loud or kind of
kind
just
of, yeah,
like, yeah.
really, truthfully, because, that was just sort of my mindset. But I said, okay, if you're real and you want me not to be anxious, then take it.
Did you
And
call
he
him
did.
dude?
I didn't. In that moment, I
Dude.
didn't call him dude. That was after he and I got a little closer. We had a little more familiarity.
Right, right. That's
But
funny.
yeah, I
Well,
mean, and he did. He took it all away. In that moment, I felt so peaceful and
immediately.
immediately. And I don't know if anyone's ever had like a legitimate panic attack to
Mhm.
where like you physically feel like you're having a heart attack and going to die. That's not something that just vanishes. I mean, that's like a lot of times you have to go to the emergency room and they give you a drug or something.
Right.
But it did. It went away. So my introduction into true Christianity and true faith was a profoundly supernatural experience.
Wow.
Um, and so it has kind of informed my approach to, my entire worldview really has been about love and grace, because the Lord took this girl who was panicking because she couldn't seem to meditate herself into peace.
Right.
And he took her when she was like at her messiest, sitting at her computer bawling, trying to write an article that was completely denying him. And he came to me and loved me enough to say, you know what? I really don't want you to be anxious. Be anxious for nothing. And that is like my introduction to how loving God is and how much he loves all of us and that his grace is sufficient. And I think that has just kind of been sort of why I have such a strong um, belief that the biggest thing that we can really do as our witness is to love each other, because that is really manifesting Christ, really. I
Right.
mean, in his nature, God is love. And that's what he showed me. It was his love that pulled me out of all of that darkness. So the least that I can do is express that to other people.
Now, when you after that experience, which
Hmm.
is an awesome supernatural experience, I mean, what was the change like? Were you immediately never anxious anymore? Were you like what was
I
I mean,
had
I think that's like the happy
Yeah,
story everybody wants to think, but
I know. And to be honest, that's the story I told for a while,
yeah,
because there was like a honeymoon phase, I would
right.
say, of like becoming a Christian where I didn't have a lot of anxiety. I was super pumped to have gotten to know Jesus. It was a beautiful time. It was really all about telling everybody that I could. I changed my website instantly to being a Christian website, and about half of the people who had followed me up to that point were like, "All right, see you
Yeah, I
later."
was gonna say, how'd your listeners like that?
Some of them stuck around, and some of them have stuck around to this day, to be honest, which is a blessing. But a lot of them were, you're too Jesus-y now, and
Right.
and they left me. But that, I mean, yeah, so I was so filled with this excitement, and I didn't experience a lot of anxiety. But I have had to adjust my testimony a bit, because I would be lying if I didn't say that anxiety has never visited itself upon me since that moment. I mean, I
Right.
still am an anxious person.
Hmm.
I still, tend to be a worrier. And I think when that started to express itself through me, I was at first a little bit disappointed
Yeah.
because I was like, well, okay, I was delivered. So
Like you
what's
have the
this all
receipt,
about?
you got
Yeah.
the bill of goods, like why why is this still here?
That's what it was. It was
Right.
like, well, was I kidding myself or what? But it was a process of learning that, yes, I was delivered from anxiety in that moment. And the Lord in his mercy delivers us over and over and over again.
Right. Right.
And that's what I had to learn. So my testimony now isn't like, hey, I used to have anxiety and now I'm never troubled about
Right.
anything. Nothing bothers
Jesus is
me.
awesome. Get your Jesus today.
Yeah, exactly. Now my testimony is like, yeah, I'm still just a flawed, fleshy McFlesherson, and I have these moments where I just fall into the worry and anxiety, as evidenced by what happened when my daddy first got sick. I
Right.
had that moment where I was just like mad about it, and really stressing about it. But it is a process of him being faithful to continuously deliver us whenever something like that comes upon us, and
Yeah.
that's been a real blessing to incorporate that into my testimony, because I think then people don't say, well, what's wrong with me? I'm a Christian, I got saved, and I still feel depressed sometimes or whatever.
Right.
To be able to say, yeah, man, me too. But he's faithful if you go to him with this stuff, to take it off of you over and over again every time it happens. That's a beautiful thing.
There you go. Now, does your history with anxiety or any anxiety come up when you learn of the brand new, shiny conspiracy theory that's out? Because that's a big one. I mean,
Yeah.
there's times where something new comes out and I'm just like, I've just come to a place of acceptance
Mhm.
oftentimes. I got to be real careful because it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, did you know that
Like,
Hillary Clinton cleared off her hard drive before she gave the computer to the FBI? And so she
yeah.
knew about Benghazi and maybe she even had a hand in it. And what does
Mhm.
that mean? What does it mean? What does it mean for
What
me?
is
What does it
it?
mean for my future? The country's going down. Oh my God, I got to go to the store. I got to get some food. I got to go. I got to get buff. I need to be able to fight. I got to go take some Krav Maga classes.
All of those things, yeah. But I think especially in the beginning, when I kind of tried to incorporate my faith into this sort of reality that I am a quote unquote conspiracy theorist,
Right.
I think it freaked me
Which we
out
need to
even
find
more.
another name for, by the
I
way.
know I always have to give the disclaimer of the quotes because I
Yeah,
hate that
I know.
phrase, but I don't know what else to call it.
Me neither.
I think it's cheesy when people are like, well, actually, I'm a conspiracy realist.
Yeah,
Like that's cheesy too.
it's cheesy. And anybody who's not a conspiracy realist along with you is going to be like, okay, crazy person, get back in the back of
Hmm.
the bus. Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely would find myself really getting freaked out a little bit about all of these. I mean, whether it's ghosts, aliens, stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
going the whole thing, Planet X, all this stuff. uh, yes, absolutely. And the interesting thing, Basil, is I remember back when we were just wee podcasting pups. I can't remember if it was on your show or on my show. It was a Canary Cry or Beyond Extraordinary, but we had this discussion about, I don't know if you remember this, but we had this discussion about how conspiracy theorizing can really get stressful and scary.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we were like right at the cusp at that point, like sort of at the same time, kind of having this sort of realization of what it can do to your mindset,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that just started to blossom in my brain too. Like, I always go back to where what it says in Philippians 4:8, where it says, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, excellence, all of this stuff, those are the things we're supposed to focus on. And that's like a mantra. I keep reminding myself of that whenever I get into that place where I'm like, oh my gosh, now we've got this Planet Nine and it's
Yep.
coming at us.
Yep. And
um
where does it fit in the book of Revelation? Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. And there's so much truth to that, and there's so much like really interesting things that you can speculate with that. And so I'm not like chastising anybody who looks,
Right.
because I do it too. But I think once again, it's really about adjusting your mindset, isn't it? Like,
Right.
at the end of the day, we're all good. We're all, those of us who are in Christ, we're good. We're covered,
Yeah.
and come what may, we're supposed to be rejoicing right up to the guillotine, right?
There you
I
go.
mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's one of those things too. It's like one of those intellectual things that we all know that and can even recite on a moment's notice and
yeah,
look and sound completely confident in it. But then you see other people, then you see that same person and their behavior in a different situation, and you're like, "Whoa, guy, come on
yeah,
now." Like, remember that thing you just said a little while ago with the whole like it's okay, Jesus is in you and you're going to glory later.
yeah.
Why don't you act like it a little bit? And I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that is because, um, you know, believe it or not, there are other aspects to I want to say joy and happiness. I guess I'm just gonna keep saying that because I don't.
Yeah.
But it's something deeper. It almost can be summed up in just a shalom type situation. You know,
Yeah.
if you use that word, the shalom spiracy theory is
Yeah.
what I'm gonna change the name to. But it's more of that, and you can see people who can really, really tell you how to tell you why everything's good and tell you why they're not afraid of anything and tell you why. But you look at their life and the shalom's just not there.
Mm.
You know, the
Mm-hmm.
wholeness of peace is not there. The wholeness of goodness and everything that is of God is just not there. They may have aspects of it, and of course we all slip out of it once in a while. But
Oh,
there
sure.
is a chronic unshalom that
Mm.
some people live in. That's a new thing I just invented. It's CUS. Oh, cuss. I don't know. That might be a good. There you go. Chronic unshalom. So, and more than anything, if shalom was a more marketable word, I might have called it the
Yeah.
shalom-spiracy theory. But, and when somebody truly has that, you can tell. And it
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, I always go back to, especially when I try to determine as we, I think of I'll direct your listeners if they missed the last episode of Canary Cry Radio with Mike Heiser to listen to that because I absolutely love his analogy about Christian Middle Earth.
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
and I think that there is this propensity for all of these different teachers to have all of these different things, but we shouldn't just assume that because someone speaks with authority that they actually have the authority to speak about the things that they don't necessarily have the knowledge.
Right.
This is speculation on their part too. And so I really try to put into practice the idea of looking for what the fruit of a person's ministry is.
Yeah.
Of course, in Galatians, it tells us that the fruit of the Spirit is love and joy and peace and kindness and goodness. And if somebody has a ministry where that is not coming forth out of it, then I tend to, I'm not going to say I disregard them, but I'm not trying to sound elitist here, but I really just for my own walk, I don't have a lot of time for that. I want to sort of associate myself with people who are exhibiting the fruit
Right.
that,
Oh my gosh, thank you. I don't know if I've said it on a podcast. I must have, because I think we have talked about this before. I think I might have talked about it on Josh's. The
Mm,
fruit of the Spirit is the biggest thing. It's
yes.
like one of the main things you should be thinking about. And there's in ministry obviously, but just in somebody's life. I mean,
Yeah.
that is like the fundamental thing. And first of all, I'm always surprised at how many Christians don't actually know what the fruit of the Spirit are,
Yeah.
or think that when Jesus refers to the fruit or the fruit of someone's life or the fruit of a ministry or the fruit of whatever, it's referring to the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, now I'm gonna have to change the podcast to the fruit of the Spirit spiracy theory.
Spiracy.
Oh my
Fruit
gosh,
spiracy. I
the
don't know.
fruit. That's good. I like that. So yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And I made a big point on Josh's podcast, which is, you know, we're always able to improve our display of the fruit of the Spirit.
Mm,
Always. I
yeah.
mean, the worst thing for a person in their life, and the worst thing for the people around them, and the worst thing for their relationship with God, with everything, is to be content with where they are in regards
Mm,
to the fruit of the Spirit. Because
yeah.
that's a lifelong journey and should never end until, you get the glory.
Yeah. Amen. And I have to qualify it too by saying it has to be authentic too,
Right.
because you can't just be like, doom, doom, everything's horrible, we're all gonna die, but God is love.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
it has
exactly.
to be authentic. I see people doing that too. They're like, well, I might spend 95% of my ministry talking about how everything is horrible, but then I also did tell people that Jesus saves.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of
exactly.
good.
And
That's the fruit.
you know what's great about the internet is
Mm.
that everybody's little bowl of fruit is there and documented. Because
That's true.
no matter how much they praise Jesus on their about me, no matter how many pictures of a lion and a dove merging into one with like flames that they
Yeah.
have as their profile picture. If you have that, it's awesome. But it's not about you. This is more of a general thing. No matter all that, But then you'll see that little lion dove fire merging
Yeah.
Jesus picture, like just spouting something nasty. Or just
Yeah.
like taking the like, I don't know, Christian witchcraft route, or like
Yeah.
doing all sorts of nasty stuff. And that's someone like I would rather you have like, instead of a lion and a dove, maybe like a skeleton falcon mixed with like a snake with
Yeah.
like some acid dripping off of it, and like just
Be
cuss
more.
words in your about me. But if you're showing love and you are displaying the fruit of the spirit and all
Mm,
that stuff, I would much rather that.
yeah,
You know?
I think that it is like the key to discernment, isn't it? Because
Right.
people think that discernment is something that's really difficult, and really we're given the keys and the tools to determine who is worthy of paying attention to,
Right.
especially in ministry. And I just tend to believe that, especially a lot of these self-professed Facebook ministries, I tend to think that if the vast majority of what you are talking about is making people feel fear,
Mm-hmm.
we've not been given a spirit of fear. If God doesn't give us a spirit of fear, but we are giving fear to our fellow Christians, there's a huge problem, a huge disconnect there.
Right. Or at least, yeah, not leaving them in that spirit of
Yeah,
fear. I
yeah.
mean, that's been a big. I've had to actually wrestle with that with the Canary Cry Radio, which is like, in consideration of this show,
Mm.
I was like, you know what? We've kind of talked about some scary things before.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think especially recently we've moved into a place where we don't leave it at like, remember to be afraid, everyone. Jesus is coming back, but probably not soon, so you got a lot of stuff to do, or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, anyways, maybe this is my repentance for that. But,
Yeah. I mean, I find myself in the same thing, and I think you bring up a really good point, and I think it is about balance. And I've talked to you before. I've done the live broadcast that you and Gons do
right.
occasionally on YouTube, and I've made no secret about the fact that I really love apologist Francis Schaeffer. I love
Hmm.
his whole approach. He very much focuses on grace and love, but he was an apologist too. So by its very nature, it means that he's trying to educate people, and he struck this great balance. And would you mind if I just read just a tiny little thing that he wrote, because it really plays into what we're talking
Do
about
it.
here.
Do you just have it like sitting framed by your
I have
desk? Because you're always able to just pull it out of nowhere.
some of them I have memorized. I have books. I have,
Okay, you just have tomes open
I
around you
do.
at all times.
I
All right,
really do. It's
let
actually kind of messy.
let's hear it.
Um,
I like it.
but okay, so this one is from something he wrote called "The Great Evangelical Disaster," and
Ooh,
it says,
that'll sell some books.
I know it's a very provocative title. He says, "Yet, without true Christians loving one another, Christ says that the world cannot be expected to listen even when we give proper answers. Let us be careful indeed to spend a lifetime of studying to give honest answers. For years, Orthodox Evangelical Church has done this very poorly. So it is well to spend time learning to answer the questions of men who are about us. But after we have done our best to communicate to a lost world, still we must never forget the final apologetic which Jesus gives, which is the observable love of true Christians for true Christians." So the reason I love that so much, because he calls that, he refers to love as the final apologetic. That's like
Right,
our ultimate witness.
right,
And I love that phrase because I think it plays in so much what we're talking about, where it doesn't mean that you can't be out there as a truth seeker. It doesn't mean you can't be out there telling people things or warning people or teaching people. It just means that at the end of the day, your final and most important apologetic is the love that you display in an observable way.
right.
Um,
Yeah, that's a huge one right there.
yes,
Observable way, because, I mean, people's perception of you, I mean, that's a big part of your identity, whether we
yes,
like it or not. Because if you're like, in my heart, I love everyone. I love Jesus. I
yeah,
love everyone. I love their profile picture on Facebook. I love everything.
yeah,
But if people can't see you doing that,
Hmm.
then you're being a bad example.
Yeah, it has to be observable, tangible love. And another thing that Francis Schaeffer really stresses is it has to be love that people can understand.
Mm.
So, like a lot of times when we say things like, well, I love this person so much that I'm just not going to love them straight to hell. That's sort of the that's sort of the way that people say it to
What
defend
does
the
that
fact.
even mean?
I think that what they're trying to say is, I love this person so much that I find it is my duty to tell them everything that they're doing wrong
Right,
so
right.
that they don't go to hell,
Yeah.
which is admirable, but it's also can come across as very nasty and mean and condemning when in reality um, the actual observable love is more than just love as we understand it. It's love that the world can understand. So, literally, it boils down to what I said at the beginning, which is be nice.
Boom.
Because that's love that the world understands. And then they're going to be curious about the reason for the hope that you have, which is what we are told really ultimately to do in our witness is to be, you know, give an adequate reason for the hope that's in us. And I think that love in a tangible, observable way that the world gets because it is in something that they understand, then that opens the door, in my opinion, in my view. And there's a lot of different, everybody responds to things differently, but in my view, the most effective way is to just be nice. And then people want to know, why is this person so nice? Why is she so kind? Why is she so annoyingly cheerful? you know, I mean, what's that all about? And then you get to tell them if they,
Right. Yeah.
I think what better way to witness?
You summed it up so good right there. Now, I don't think there's anything I could add to that to make it any more perfect than it was.
Mm,
So we're slightly past the 60-minute mark,
okay.
and I have three things that I've observed about you
Oh,
that I would like to discuss.
okay.
Are you ready?
Oh, yes, I'm
Okay,
ready.
here they are, in no particular order.
Okay.
Juicing, walks, and cats.
You
Let's
got it. You nailed
discuss.
it. You totally nailed it.
So I don't know. Let's start with juicing. Because
Okay.
first of all, for me, juicing makes me happy. We're just gonna end the show on some things here. I
Okay.
know usually in podcasts I'm shaking it up because I
Yeah.
know usually in podcasts like this we would have just ended right there.
Yeah.
Boom, just
No.
magnificent display of uh,
That would have been too predictable.
linguistic perfection. But this is what I'm just doing. I'm doing me, baby.
I
We're
love it.
we're doing juicing, walks, and cats. All right, but let's start with walks because in my mind,
Yeah.
you're notorious for your walks. I mean, there's albums of pictures.
I really celebrate my walks.
You do.
Yes.
And I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I
Yeah.
didn't. Now, I would love to say that you inspired me to do this, and I'll just say that now. You inspired me to
Okay.
do this. But the past few days, I will. Okay. Oh gosh, this is embarrassing. But I guess this is just what this is about now. This is the podcast where Basil embarrasses himself even more
Oh,
than he already does. I recently got like a fitness tracking device.
okay.
All right, that you wear.
Yes.
I'm not going to give a brand.
Okay.
I'm not going to do anything because it's embarrassing.
Not sponsored.
Whatever, not sponsored. They are not paying me. The second a check comes in the mail, though, get ready. All right, so, and noticed that I was not. God, this is the worst thing I've ever said in my life. I can't believe I'm saying this.
I'm so
I have
excited.
not been meeting my step goals for the day.
Oh. What's your goal? 10,000 steps?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't quite learned how this thing works, but anyways, yeah, I haven't been making my step goals, and
Mm.
I'm realizing that walking is not a huge part of my life, so I've been adding walks, purposefully going on walks. It is hard to purposefully find time to go on walks, but I have to say, other than finally getting a jump on meeting my fitness goals on my step thing, um, It has been probably the best part of my day every time that I've done it.
Oh, yay. I love to hear
Do you
that.
find that's the same thing? I mean, all I do
Yeah.
in the morning is what I'll do is I'll walk to my coffee shop and walk back home instead of like just zipping through
Yeah.
when I'm out to go work or something, you
Yeah.
know?
And let me like offer the disclaimer that I'm not like this paragon of fitness over here. I'm a chubby girl. I like food. um
Well, that's my
but
problem too. And I'd hate to interrupt, but only because I was literally just thinking about this tonight
yeah.
is, you know, when people put out, when you jokingly find a picture on the internet that they think is me or like
Yeah.
would think, is what I look like, it's always like this super skinny, like hipster guy. And I'm fine with the way that I look, but I am not a super skinny guy. And forgot where I was going with this, but yeah, so there you go. And
Yeah.
if they, there you go.
Well,
So
I get the same thing too. I don't know. I guess I get people just assuming that I'm just like this svelte, fitness freak, but whatever. You know,
just
the,
because we juice and walk,
I know. It really, the goal is to cancel out all the cheeseburgers,
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
But the walking for me really is because I love being outside.
Yeah.
I love being around nature. And so, what motivates me is to take my camera with and take pictures of the trees and the water and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That's why I have these reams of albums of my walks because that's what I love and that's what I'm trying to share with people.
Right.
So my walking actually isn't so much a fitness goal, but just enjoyment.
Yeah.
So I'm a nature enthusiast, and you tend to have to walk to get into the nature. So the
Imagine
walking
that.
is like a byproduct
Right.
of the nature enjoyment. But yeah, I
Well,
mean, I
tell
definitely.
tell me more about that. What does that do for you? All that
Well,
dirt and that rocks and those trees.
well, I love dirt and rocks and trees because I grew up with an appreciation for being outdoors. My grandfather, who I spoke to about before, he really instilled a lot of that in me. And even my father, he liked to go camping and fishing and stuff like that. So I'm just that kind of girl. I'm a North Dakota girl.
There you go.
And I like being outside. I like being outdoors. And I think especially after becoming a Christian, you kind of like start to think of nature in the context of creation.
Right.
And I have this new appreciation for it. And so I just it speaks to my soul to just be out amongst the trees and the water and um it just does it for me. I like I collect rocks and petrified wood and all that kind of stuff. I'm just very nerdy in that way. That's what
Right.
excites me. So
Yeah, I've got a lot of nature objects in my apartment that I guess I haven't talked about this much too, but I as well, that was the wrong word. I also am a nature person.
mm.
And I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the air, but I'll do it now to redeem the fact that I own a fitness device. I too am an outdoorsy person. I mean, my apartment is filled with like sticks and
Yeah,
moss. Like for some reason, I had a big moss phase.
I love
There's
it.
just like moss, and I realized that moss is like might not be the healthiest thing to be in here. There's a lot of hiding places for bugs, and I've actually done a lot of backpacking. Are you backpacking, lady?
I haven't done as so much of that in recent years. I would love to. I would
Right.
absolutely love to. I think, like I said, I love to camp. I love to, sleep under the stars. I mean, that's something that is just so sweet to me,
Yeah.
and but I'm a collector. Like if I go out, like I love sticks and rocks and leaves, and stuff like that. So I'll take like a little bag or whatever with me, and I'll just collect stuff as I go. And I just like having that. We in this world we're so confined into our little spaces, and it's kind of nice to bring something from the outside inside,
I like to
and
think of you walk in and you pick up a rock and you're like, shh, 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 shh. I'm your mother now. You'll come live with me. We'll live a wonderful life. You're gonna love the city. Is that what you do?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, really, if anyone is walking near me, they're going to hear a lot of ooh, because I get really enthusiastic about a pretty rock,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
You
I
know,
mean,
I recommend everybody get out in nature. And I know a lot of the listeners of Canary Cry Radio. I keep wanting to say the listeners of this show, but as
mm,
of right now, there are zero listeners of this show. But Canary Cry, we got a lot of Midwestern people, a lot of people up in the north, a lot of people down in the south, and
yeah,
a lot of people spend a lot of time in the outdoors. And some of my most profound spiritual experiences have come from being outdoors and spending a little bit too much time outdoors. And a few years ago, I spent 40 days backpacking.
wow,
40 days. And you might be thinking, what a spiritual number. And I'm thinking, yeah, spiritual number, baby. I'm do some spiritual bragging because that was on purpose, but I would not recommend it to anyone else because it is some serious hardship.
yeah,
Um, and that's when I first experimented with growing beards. But but honestly, I mean, it was some of the most life changing experiences I've had have been
yeah,
outdoors. So we
yeah,
can give that as a tip to everybody. Get
yeah,
outside more. It was made for you. Nature was literally made for you to go enjoy. And if you're not spending time out there enjoying it, you're just doing yourself a disservice. You're doing it wrong
yeah.
if you're not going outside and enjoying it.
You know what comes to mind? Are you familiar with that song God of Wonder? That I think it's Third Day.
You
I'm
mean
not
the
like
number one known song
a
in
song of
all
all
of
time.
Christendom?
Well, I don't spend a whole lot of time in like the contemporary Christian music realm, so I don't know how familiar people are
Right,
with these different songs. But it was a song that somebody played for me at one time, and it makes me think of that line that says, "Lord of all creation, of water, earth, and sky," and then it says, "The heavens are your tabernacle." That is such beautiful imagery to me. That just
right.
like being outdoors and just like doing church, you know? I
There you
mean, just
go.
being out there and worshiping and being around his creation and rather
Right.
than ours.
Well,
It's
think
amazing.
about it. I mean, he made it for you, and
Yeah.
if you're not out looking at it and liking it, it's basically just a toy you got for Christmas, and you keep it in the
Mm,
closet, and you know, he doesn't get the joy of having you enjoy it. I mean, that's
yeah.
part of the big part of it. What did I give the other day? Well, it's Christmas. And you give away a gift on Christmas and you see the next day the person is using it or enjoying it and you're like, "That's
Mm,
right. That's
yeah.
right.
Nailed it.
Enjoy that. I
Right.
gave that to you." And if you're
Yeah.
not doing it, you need to do it, everybody.
Agreed.
I just
Get
got a
out
little worked
there.
up. Walks. All right, so that's walks.
Okay.
Okay. We spent 15 minutes talking about walks.
I don't think people spend enough minutes on
No,
talking about
I don't
walks.
think so either. If they would have just been walking while we talked about it, then they would be probably closer to their step goal. Come on,
Yeah.
guys.
And for those of you who are listening right now, whilst walking, is this a little bit like, ooh, you're feeling like, yeah,
Yeah, that
I'm on track
it's
here.
Laura in Illinois who's on a walk right now.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura.
Hello, Laura.
Okay, let's talk about juicing.
Okay.
Okay, juicing. Now, before I just want everybody this is if there's any part of my podcast that's going to get turned off, it's when I start talking about things like this. But I
Uh,
think it's important.
okay. Well, juicing for me is something that I took upon myself for a couple of different reasons. Admittedly, the initial reason was weight loss.
Yeah.
And I had watched that movie, the documentary Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. It's on
Right.
Netflix.
Right.
And the whole point of it is that just sort of our Western diet that's so full of preservatives and artificial everything is just ruining our bodies, and that we can actually sort of reboot and restart
Yeah.
our systems by taking in uh, more fruits and vegetables. And the reason juicing instead of just eating a bunch of fruits and vegetables is because you can consume so much more at one time. I
Right?
mean, you can like juice 2 pounds of vegetables, but good luck sitting there trying to eat 2 pounds of
Yeah. You know
vegetables.
what I had for breakfast, everybody? I had like 4 carrots, a whole cucumber, a whole bunch of spinach,
Yep.
a little tiny bit of garlic, 2 oranges, and a handful of radishes.
Yeah.
What did you have? Yeah.
And like I said, you try sit down and just try to eat
Oh
that,
my gosh.
It,
Just eat. Have you ever eaten a radish?
I don't
Natalina?
like them. I
No,
don't, I mean, I have, and I don't like them.
nobody has on purpose eaten a radish before. It's
No.
just been in the salad because the guy who made the salad is like, "What are these? I need to get these out of here." And they put
Yeah.
them in a salad and you accidentally eat it.
And you're
But
like, ooh, this salad was good up until the
and then
radish.
that radish came along and I'm never coming back. Mom. Um So yeah, I mean there's no way I could have been able to eat those.
Oh,
Just get out of my face with all that.
yeah. But if you juice it, then you're getting all those micronutrients into the juice, and you're able to, I mean, and then in the juice form, of course, I mean, this is just basic. Of course, it's going to absorb so much better because your body doesn't have to go through the process of expending all of the energy to digest all of the veggies that you just ate and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ready to go. You're
Yeah.
throwing it in your body and it's
Boom.
absorbing it.
Boom.
And
Natalina, can I tell you
yeah,
that after I have all that juice with the radishes even,
yeah.
I don't even need coffee for a while.
No, no.
You are so jazzed
Yep.
and you feel so good and it's for me, I don't know how it is for anybody else, but I'm not even hungry afterwards because my
Yeah.
body's just like burning on that clean white burning fuel
Mm-hmm.
and you're good for a while and you look good too.
Yeah, and the first time I juiced for 30 days straight. Where
Oh
I
my
did not
gosh.
take in a single bit of solid food for 30 days. And at the beginning I thought,
30?
30
That's so
days.
many days.
I know. And not unlike 40 days in the wilderness. It wasn't always easy.
Yeah, no.
um but it was such a profound experience to me because I think I, like so many other people, my relationship to food was just so perverted.
Yeah.
Like that was a source of pleasure. And again, disclaimer, I am not a fitness guru. I still love food, and I have gained back some of the weight that I
Natalina,
lost on that because I fell off the wagon.
my love for grilled cheese sandwiches bordered, I will still say it, it's borders
Yeah.
on like sinful lustfulness.
Yeah, 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 really. I mean, I can totally relate to that. And then on top of it, it's not just food. It's not just like greasy fried food, but it's also like I have had this obsession with Diet Coke for such a long time,
Ah, that'll
which
get
is
you.
literally like the worst possible thing with all the aspartame, the worst possible thing you can put in your body. And I know it. Like, I have people constantly trying to tell me how bad aspartame is for you. I'm like, guys, I wrote an article back in 2009 that just exposed
Yeah.
aspartame, and I was like drinking a Diet Coke while I was writing this
Yeah,
article
there you go.
because I was addicted, I was obsessed. And when you do the juicing thing and you kind of commit to getting some of those chemicals out of, I mean, the detox of all of that crapola, it's not always super pleasant, but it is so when you get rid of it and then you're just running strictly on the juice. Oh my gosh, like you feel so good. And it doesn't just,
Refiner's fire, baby.
yeah, and it's not just your physical body, but like your mental
Oh,
clarity,
it
your
changes
focus.
everything.
Yeah, your
Everything. I've
everything improves.
I've never done a 30-dayer. I have done a 10-dayer. I did do a
Mm,
10-dayer just juice, and I've done a couple 3-dayers. But even when I'm not necessarily doing an actual cleanse,
mm-hmm.
and I'm just chugging it in the morning,
Yeah.
making it happen, I mean, it changes my entire day.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole attitude, your whole everything. It's amazing
Yeah.
when you start your day with something besides fried potatoes, fried eggs, fried bacon. And don't get me
Mm.
wrong,
It's so good.
there's nothing better than like a good American breakfast.
Yeah.
I will tell you, number one, I'm a number one fan. I'm technically a vegetarian, and
Mm.
I always make an exception for bacon. I will
Yeah,
always do it. I will never not do it. So don't even talk to me
I
about
know.
it.
And did you hear the enthusiasm in my voice? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, your
So
mouth is just
good.
watering over there. I know. And everybody right now, uh, 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 uh what's the name? Henry in Florida is like, I'm gonna make myself some bacon,
We're gonna have
and
some
he's
bacon right
doing
now.
it right
I
now.
wonder if you can
So,
juice bacon.
yeah, I've definitely wondered that.
Yeah.
Don't try it.
No.
Um, so yeah, there we go. Juicing's good. Also, I mean, I don't want to. Again, I'm trying to switch topics enough before people realize that they need to turn this off. So,
Yeah.
and just real quick though, there's all that talk about, after something's juiced, the
Yeah.
amount of time that it has until all the nutrients disappear. And
Mm-hmm.
that might be true, may not be true. I don't know, but I will tell you, juicing your own stuff
Yeah.
tastes a lot better than paying $10 at a Whole Foods for the same
Yeah.
juice.
And that juice that they sell, no matter how many times they write vegan, GMO free, blah, 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 it's all still pasteurized. It's
Yep.
been sitting on a shelf forever. It's in that plastic bottle. If you can juice your own, and juicing, a caveat, it can be expensive. I mean, you have to, if,
Oh,
especially if
juicers?
you're,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
juicers themselves can be really expensive, but the produce itself can be, if especially if you're like, living on that
Yeah.
for an extended period of time, you kind of have to, like, one trick is to use a lot more cucumbers and stuff like that because they have a lot more juice,
Juice.
you
Yep.
know?
Now let me tell you my situation. All
Yeah.
right, because I found the perfect combo here to keep
Mm,
my juicing budget to a minimum, and it's
yeah.
fantastic. All right, so first of all, I'd like to say I bought my juicer from a thrift store. All right,
Me
there
too.
you go. It's the way to do it,
Seven
Natalina.
dollars
Yes, you cannot buy a juicer new. There's no reason.
No,
Thrift stores across America are filled with juicers.
that, yes.
Filled. And if you're going and buying a juicer for 80, $100 at a store, what are you going to do? You're going to bring it to a thrift store
Yep.
because you're not going to use it. All
Yep.
right? Filled with Jack LaLanne power juicers. Those are like
Absolutely
200,
every.
$300. You can get it for 25 bucks at a thrift store. You have no reason to do this. Go
Yeah.
do it, or no reason to not do this. Go get it, pay the 25 bucks. I will say, uh, my juicer, I have it. And I almost bought a new one today, actually. It's so weird we're thinking about this. I was almost going to buy a new juicer because I was in a comedy sketch competition a
Mm.
few months ago. And this is my devotion to my team. Included in our sketch, I lit my juicer on fire, like
Whoa.
full on fire, and
Wow.
it got a little melted. And
I
like
would imagine.
pieces are breaking off. Like when I was lighting the thing on fire, I'm thinking, okay, it's fine. We're just gonna put it out really quick. Not a whole bunch of harm. It's all right. We're gonna win this thing. The fire burnt a long time. And so it's a little warped, but it still works. And it was a $9 juicer. Anyways, do that.
Mm.
Now, my produce, you get produce at a grocery store, you can easily walk out the door paying what, $60 for
Yeah.
a week's worth of produce, which is ridiculous. Don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
everybody. What I do is I go to the local dollar store, and if you go
Mm.
to the local dollar store on the right day, you can
Mm.
get all the same produce that you were just about to buy at the other grocery store. What happens? A day before the expiration date, they ship it all, give it to the dollar store.
Yeah.
You,
Preach it. I
you
am
go,
such a,
you
yep.
swoop it up. Just yesterday, I got maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks if I'm slow, of produce. A lot of produce. Like
Yeah.
too much. That's all I have in my fridge is all
Yeah.
produce.
Yeah.
$14.
Nice.
Yep.
Oh,
That's
that's
how you
great.
do it, baby. That's
I
$14 for breakfasts for like a week and a half.
I think that is such a good point because there are ways to kind of skirt the expense of it all. And I mean, I think everybody thinks you have to go to Whole Foods or you have to
That's
go
what I'm
to,
saying.
your local organic co-op or whatever, which I mean, ideally,
Yeah.
we're conspiracy
Right.
theorists here, we know the dangers of all of this
Absolutely.
crap that they pesticides and whatever. So ideally, yes.
Yeah.
If you can do all organic and that kind of thing, great. But I tend to think that grocery store produce is better than a hot pocket.
Oh my
you
gosh.
know?
Literally, you are reading my mind. Every time I'm at the dollar store, I'm picking that thing up and I am going, well, it is dollar store produce. I mean,
Yeah.
there's gonna be some nasty things, but it's better than the guy rolling through the cart in the dollar store still, loaded with potato chips and soda and all these
Yeah.
things. I mean, I roll up to the cashier with my huge cart of produce, and people are looking at me like I don't belong there.
Yeah.
It's
I know.
ridiculous.
I know.
Anyways, okay, that's enough about juicing, everybody. Go do it. Honestly, I mean, it's a journey. It's a part of my journey.
Mm,
I will say it belongs on this podcast because it makes me so happy. And you get healthy, you feel better, and you're
yeah.
nice. You're nice because of it.
And I will just add one more thing for those people who I know, like when I talk about juicing publicly and stuff like that, especially when I'm in a juice fast and I'm really enthusiastic about it and I'll
Yep.
like show pictures of my green juice. I think that like I get a lot of people saying like, "Well, where are you getting your protein from? And you're going to
Yeah.
die. That's so
Yeah.
unhealthy."
Yeah.
And without getting into all the specifics of it, I will just say that fasting is obviously a very biblical concept and I
Yep.
think anytime you're going into something like this, if you enter into it prayerfully and, set yourself some goals, and whether it's just for fitness or, myself, I have dealt with some autoimmune issues and the fasting has worked wonders that no drug ever prescribed to me has ever done. I think that it is just, you bear in mind that fasting is biblical. It
There you
is
go.
not something to be afraid of.
Yep. And I will say, and I don't have the expertise or the energy to get into the full conversation, but the protein fetish that America has
Yeah,
is a lie. It's
it
a
is a lie.
it's a deception and a manipulation from certain industries. Your body has the potential to make all of its own protein if you give it the right ingredients. And that is
Amen.
the argument that all the veggie people will do. But that being said, gosh, I love bacon. I
I know.
seriously love bacon, and all you meat eaters out there, I love you. I love you, and
Yes.
I don't care. Eat all the animals. I'm not going to eat them. It's more for you. Do it.
Yeah.
Eat it,
Yeah.
eat it, eat it. But for my personal journey, that's been the way for me. Okay, cats.
Oh, this is the one that hits the closest to my heart.
Yep, me too. When I
um
do it, go. Just go. You
I
got
love
this.
cats, you guys. Listen, so my best friend is a cat. And his name is Solomon and he is pudgy. He could probably use a juice fast, to be honest. But so my cat came into my life. You didn't expect there was going to be this like heart wrenching
No,
story here,
I
but
did know this was going to happen.
I
This
have
is
a
why I
story.
brought it up. Because it brings me joy. It brings
Oh,
you joy. I hope if you're listening to this and Natalina's heartfelt conversation about cats does not bring you even a hint of joy, this is the wrong podcast for you.
yeah, turn it off. But so when I was telling you earlier how I went through this period of intense anxiety and stuff.
Uh huh.
And um one year for Christmas, when I was at a really bad place with my anxiety, my little brother for Christmas gave me a cat.
Oh my gosh. Little
And
bro.
I know. And he gave me this little kitty cat who is Solomon. And this
Oh.
was, oh, it probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Animals are just such a gift from the
You
Lord.
know, that's a dream that I have. To be able to give somebody a cat or give
Yes.
and them not be like, I don't what? No,
What do I gotta do now?
you're just giving me a pooping machine. I don't want this.
I know. People need to understand.
If it
Just
was if it was socially acceptable, every gift that I ever gave would be a kitten. Ever.
I think the
Even
world
if
would
they
be
already
better for
have
it.
kittens.
You can never have too many kittens. And I get accused of being a cat lady a lot because
Me too.
I don't Basil the cat lady.
Yeah.
But I I you know, I think for me, I'm an animal person in general.
Yeah.
But the thing about okay, so here's a little science for you. The sound of a cat purring is statistically, I don't have the numbers, I don't have the data, but just trust me on this. It's the best sound in the world. It is soothing.
It's true.
It is meant, it's designed not only because the cat is content, but to alert you that it is content, to
Yep.
try to bring you into that center of contentment.
Yep.
And what an amazing creation of the Lord. And I am unashamedly enthusiastic about my cat first, but all cats in
In general,
general.
have you ever matched breathing with your cat?
Yes.
What is that? His lungs are
Oh,
so tiny. How can he do the
yeah.
same breathing? I don't even
I
understand.
I know, and they like to, like, especially when it's a baby kitty, they like to sleep on your chest
Yep.
because they get so much comfort from hearing your heartbeat. And then when you're sleeping and you can listen to your cat's heartbeat, it is literally the sweetest little, it's like the sweetest thing.
Yep.
There's just, you know, it is again a biblical principle that we should look after and care for our beasts, but I think one thing that is not focused on is how much they do for us.
It's true. There's all sorts of research out there to say that people with pets, and there's data on the individual pets, but people with pets in general live longer, report happier or
Yep.
more happiness scores, score
Hmm.
higher on emotional intelligence, score higher on all sorts of things. And
Yep.
so, we're not alone on that. I'm sure a lot of people here love pets and have dogs. I've seen them
Mm.
on the Facebooks. They're
Yep.
out there. Can I drop some cat science on you?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so they set up brain scans on cats. I don't know how they did it. I'm sure
I
there's
bet you it's
some shaving involved. I don't know, but
yeah,
so they hook up I don't know exactly what kind of scan, some kind of brain scan to cats,
the cutest
and
little cat scan ever.
cutest little tiniest tiny little cat scan.
Yeah.
Um, and they showed the cats a picture of a dog, and a little part of their brain lit up. Then
Oh.
they showed a picture of a cat to the cat, and a different part of the brain lit up. And then they showed a picture of a human to the cat, and the same part of the brain lit up as when the cat was looking at a cat. Cats think that
Oh,
we are just big cats.
I love it. I
Boom.
love that. And doggone it, I mean, how wonderful to be able to sort of, have you seen that video going around
I
about this
was gonna
girl?
bring it up too. The Norwegian chick.
Yeah.
It was a great video to practice my Norwegian on, but that was nuts. I mean, that could be you, I'm
Yeah.
sure,
Oh,
all the
thanks.
way. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's a video. I don't even know what to search for. What's her name? Like Nano or something?
I don't know. Just
I
log
don't
on to
know.
Facebook.
Some
Everybody's sharing it.
Scandinavian Norwegian young lady,
Hmm.
just legitimately 100% no act thinks that she is a cat,
Hmm.
and was born with a genetic disorder
Yeah.
that has put her in a human's body, and it is mostly disturbing,
Yeah.
mostly disturbing, a little bit funny, but like funny, not haha funny, funny like just sad funny,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Um, and she goes so far to say that she can speak cat language. I mean, the
Hmm.
the video has B-roll of her just like looking out a window, meowing and like grooming. It is so weird.
And she and her boyfriend can meow to
Oh
each
my
other and
gosh, her
understand.
boyfriend, who has multiple personality disorder, admittedly says he has multiple personality disorder, and one of the personalities is a cat. I actually
Yep.
believe him more than I believe her.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they do this little thing. The reporter says like, "So, can you say something? Like, do you understand each other in cat?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." And she asks something like, I don't know what she asked. The reporter's like, "How do you say, 'Come on, let's go to the mall'?" And there's a short pause.
I know.
there's a, there's a, and she looks up as if she's searching her memory banks, as if she's trying to recall the exact way. She takes a moment and she looks down in full confidence as if she is 100% sure of her translation to cat speak. And she goes, she goes, meow, 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 meow. And this is the best part. She looks at her boyfriend. And the boyfriend looks straight faced at the reporter and says, "Yep, that's right." Oh my gosh, you guys have to go. Oh,
Her delivery is just so confident.
she's so confident.
Meow, 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 meow.
Meow, 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 meow. Just the most ridiculous.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
oh.
And you know, those of us who actually speak cat are like, no.
Right, no, she
That wasn't
totally
it.
got it wrong. Oh my gosh. I almost couldn't do that. That was so funny. Just thinking about it is so funny. All right.
Oh my
So
god.
make sure to go check that out. I don't know. Just Google search Norwegian girl thinks she's a cat.
She's a cat. You'll find it. She's got like a little
She's
headband with cat
Yeah,
ears.
she's got pink hair. You can't
Yeah.
miss her. And to be fair, I'm sure there's a large population of people who think they're cats. There's a lot of weird people in the world, so like that's got to be a thing. Um, I wonder if they're like, why is Meow Meow getting all the attention? She's gonna become
This
the
does not adequately represent our community.
yeah the public. Nobody voted her the public liaison to the cat human community. Did we just see like a petition show up to like strip her of her representative? Oh my gosh.
Oh,
That was good.
yeah, that was
That
really
was real
good.
good. Well, Natalina, I don't think it's gonna get any better than that.
Yeah.
So, so thanks so much for coming on the podcast. And
Oh,
you know what? I have a feeling you're gonna be a recurring guest. So,
oh.
just keep in mind we gotta find more cat videos to talk about.
Between the cat
We
videos
should
and
seriously investigate and give a report on that community.
you know, I think that would be really interesting. It'd be like cat people exposed,
Yeah,
you know.
right, debunked. And and I mean, honestly, we could totally swing it because in all this talk of like human animal hybrids and chimeras
Yeah.
and things like that, who are going to be the first people to get it? The
Yeah.
people who already think they are cats.
That's right.
It's not even a question for them.
Maybe we can really reach that community. I mean,
That's
maybe
true.
that's our calling. We
We
didn't
should
know.
be missionaries to the cat folk.
You're like, listen, I like cats as much as the next guy. However,
Let me tell you about a real cool cat. Jesus Christ.
oh,
We got this.
yes,
We'll have to do some fundraising for our
yeah.
travel expenses.
Okay.
All right, well there you have it, folks. Natalina, again, thank you so much. If we don't get out of here, we're never gonna do it. So
Oh,
this was a real great. This is the first recording of the Joyspiracy Theory podcast, and I'll say it one more time: couldn't have been with a better guest. So thank you so much.
oh, thank you so much, Basil, for having me. And I really, just on a sincere note, I really believe in what you're doing here. I think it's a much needed ministry. And I really hope that people out there listening, if you get bogged down in the conspiracy theory world and you're feeling like it's kind of dark and gloomy, just remember that, ultimately love, grace, joy, delight. These are the things that the Lord has told us to really embrace. And if what you're researching is not exemplifying that, take a moment to just check out Basil's show,
Woo!
and and you'll hopefully be able to laugh with us and have a little bit of enjoyment.
Well, there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed that first episode of the Joyspiracy Theory. I just couldn't believe how much fun that was, especially at the end there. I hope you guys thought so too, or not. I mean, I guess I could understand just hearing two grown children laughing hysterically into microphones, sometimes having a hard time to breathe, might be annoying to some people, but every time I go back and listen to it, I can't stop laughing. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that. I just want to thank everybody so much who has supported the Joyspiracy Theory as we launch here, sharing the posts and the videos, and I just pray that you guys will continue your support. You can go to thejoyspiracytheory.com. You can like us on Facebook. Obviously, we're on YouTube. Check that out. And we're also starting something awesome. We're putting together a prayer ministry attached to the Joyspiracy Theory. So if you have any prayer requests or would like to pray for others like you, or even just, I don't know, meet them on the internet and you guys can pray for stuff also, like I said, or if you have a prayer request, you can go to thejoyspiracy.com and follow the links there for prayer, and please get hooked in, because that's an awesome part of the ministry that someone is coming in to help me with, and it is so wonderful, and you will meet that person later on. And lastly, if anybody out there is feeling called by the Lord to help out the Joyspiracy Theory financially, you are completely welcome to do that. You can go to patreon.com/the Joyspiracy Theory, or click on the links in the description. And, surprisingly, there's some costs associated with starting a new ministry. So that Patreon is available for you to get involved if you are so called to do so. Anyways, guys, thanks so much again, and make sure to come back to the Joyspiracy Theory, and make sure to keep thinking, keep feeling, and stay happy. Oh, jeez, that is the worst tagline I've ever heard.